بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا ونبينا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين لا سيما بقية الله في الأراضين اللهم أخرجني من ظلمات الوهم وأكرمني بنور الفهم اللهم افتح علينا أبواب رحمتك وانشر علينا خزائن علومك برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. Alhamdulillah, we have tawfiq to continue our series on 40 Hadith by Imam Khomeini, and today actually we have also a program at the center to commemorate his anniversary. So later today, inshallah, I will be going again to the center for this program. We gave some introduction to the book, and now we want to start with the first hadith, and this is the famous hadith of Jihad al-Nafs. Before we get into the text of the hadith, it's important to mention something about the hadith in this book. The late Imam Khomeini, before the first hadith, mentions his chain of narrators and the way he has received these hadiths from his Sheikh or Mashayikh, one after the other, till it reaches the author of the book. For example, here it says أخبرني إجازة مكاتبة ومشافهة. He says, I have been given permission verbally and in writing by عدة من المشايخ العظام والثقات الكرام, some of the great masters and some of the most honorable, reliable people. For example, منهم الشيخ العلامة المتكلم الفقيه الأصولي الأديب المتبحر الشيخ محمد رضا آل العلامة الوفي. So he mentions few people that have given Imam Khomeini permission to narrate this hadith as they had received from their own teachers. And for example, then after mentioning few people, for example, like this Sheikh Muhammad Rida al-Allama or Sheikh Abbas al-Qummi, then he mentions the teachers or the masters or sheikh of those people. For example, they have received this from Mirza Hussain al-Nuri, Sahib al-Mustadrak Wasa'il al-Shia, who was a teacher of Sheikh Abbas al-Qummi in Hadith. Then Mirza Hussain al-Nuri has received permission from Sheikh Murtada al-Ansari. And this goes on. So this is a way that our ulama and the narrators of hadith have documented everything. So today we can, with peace of mind, make sure that this book that we have today, for example, Al-Kafi by Khomeini, is similar to what the author had compiled. If there was no discontinuous chain of narrators, then there was a chance that someone says, yes, Khomeini had such a book as Al-Kafi. But how you want to prove that this book that you call it today Kafi was the same book? So we have, alhamdulillah, ability to trace back all these books generation by generation to the time of the authors. And because those authors also had documented from them, also we can trace it back to the Ma'sumin, to the Imams and the Prophet. So this is very, very important. After he mentions this chain, finally it reaches عن الشيخ الأجل ثقة الإسلام محمد بن يعقوب الكليني صاحب الكافي. So this is connected to the compiler of Al-Kafi, the late Sheikh Kulayni. And then Sheikh Kulayni in his Kafi says an Ali ibn Ibrahim. So the Sheikh for Sheikh Kulayni, the teacher and master for Sheikh Kulayni, was for many hadiths Ali ibn Ibrahim. Ali ibn Ibrahim and Abi Ibrahim ibn Hashim and Nawfali and Sakuni and Abi Abdullah alayhi salam. So we reach Imam Sadiq alayhi salam. Inna Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi ba'atha sariyatan. Truly Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam dispatched and sent a sariyah. Sariyah means part of an army, something about 400 people, because Imam Khomeini says that يقال خير السرايا 400 رجل. The best size for this, it's a subsect of army, it's a group of about 400 people. But also you should know that Sariya also is the title for those wars that took place in the time of the Prophet in which the Prophet himself did not attend. Ghazawat, or Ghazwa as the singular, are those that Rasulullah himself took part and he was the commander, and Saraya or Sariya as the singular are those that Rasulullah himself was not taking part in the battle. He was staying in Medina and appointing someone as the commander and sending the army. So one of the incidents was that Rasulullah ba'atha sariyatan, he sent a group of soldiers, falamma raja'u, when they returned. So it means that they were able to succeed. They were not killed or taken as captive. Rasulullah said, Marhaban biqawmin qadawu al-jihad al-asqar wa baqiya alayhim al-jihad al-akbar. Welcome to the people who have completed minor struggle, and upon them still remains major struggle. فقيل يا رسول الله ما الجهاد الأكبر. Then maybe people were surprised. What is major struggle? If this is minor, sorry. If this is minor, what is major? Is it because, for example, we are going to fight a bigger army, or what? Rasulullah said, قال جهاد النفس. The bigger, the greater, the major struggle is not to fight an external enemy. Is not to fight a soldier or a group of soldiers of your enemy who are outside your community, outside your ummah, outside your group. The real difficulty or great difficulty is when you have to fight against your own nafs, against your own temptations and lower desires, against your own wishes, characters or characteristics. So, this famous hadith that has been discussed by many ulama, and even in Wasa'il al-Shia, the late Hurra Amili has a whole section on jihad al-nafs, in the discussion about jihad, which is mostly about militant jihad, he has a whole section on Jihadul Nafs, which has been, alhamdulillah, also translated into English as combat with the self. So it has received great attention from our ulama. Of course, I have noticed there are some people outside, of course, our community that deny and disregard this hadith, and they think that this hadith is made in order to keep people away from militant jihad. But we know that there is such a thing as militant jihad, and that is very clearly defined in fiqh. It's not as often happening and as wide happening as some people think, that immediately they declare jihad and they start killing people, and even killing other Muslims, as we see in some people, today, unfortunately, in some parts of the world, that in the name of Islam, in the name of jihad, they kill other people easily. So it's not like what they think, but there is such a principle as militant jihad in Islam when it is really needed and when it is according to the clear rulings of Islam and under supervision of great scholars and leaders. Not that every person declares jihad, every imam of masjid or every local scholar or some activist decide about this. So that's there. The principle of militant jihad is there for very specifically, clearly defined cases, like defending your country, defending yourself, defending innocent and oppressed people, but with very clear methodology and clear hierarchy, and also in a very gradual way. But we also have jihad on nafs. No one should deny this. We should know that this spiritual struggle is there, and the Prophet has considered it to be the greater one, to be major, because actually without this, the other one also would not be successful. If people who go for militant and physical battle, if they don't have that sincerity and purity in their heart, if their intentions are not purified, there is no big difference between them and the other party. Because we have seen in the course of history, in different religions, that people, in the name of religion, they have tried to secure their own selfish, tribal, sectarian, interests. Even we see how some caliphs acted, that expanded their territory, but indeed they were not observing Islamic principles. They were not even respectful to the family of the Prophet. So if a Muslim king or caliph expands his territory but uses the name of Islam or God, in nature and in essence is not that much different from an un-Islamic king or caliph if he does that. What is important is that we should exercise carefully al-jihad al-akbar, so that when we speak or we are silent, when we move or we are idle, all is for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Whether it is like Imam Hassan alayhi salam in his ceasefire, or like Imam Hussein alayhi salam, it will be for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Even Imam Hussein alayhi salam, whether it be 10 years of patience and like ceasefire in the time of Muawiyah, or would be refusing to pay allegiance to Yazid, again, it's for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this jihad akbar is very important, and no one can denied. So I repeat the hadith again. إن النبي صلى الله عليه وآله بعث سرية فلما رجعوا قال مرحبا بقوم غضبوا الجهاد الأصغر وبغي عليهم الجهاد الأكبر. Imam Sadiq alayhi salam says, truly the Prophet dispatched a group of soldiers, and when they returned, he said, welcome to people who have completed minor struggle, and upon them remains the greater struggle. فَقِيلَ يَا رَسُولَ اللَّهِ مَا الْجِهَادُ الْأَكْبَرُ. It was said, O Messenger of God, what is greater struggle? قَالَ جِهَادُ النَّفْسِ, to fight against your own tempting soul. Okay. This is also the hadith that in self-development we have discussed. If you want also some explanation, you can go to the book self-development. Now, there is a great area here to discuss. Lots of things can be discussed about this hadith, because this is a kind of basis and foundation for understanding what is the spiritual struggle and what should we do to purify ourselves. The late Imam Khomeini says, you must know that human being is something very mysterious. U'jubi means something very special, extraordinary, something that is not very common, which has two aspects: nash'e, zahire, mulkiye, dunyaviye. One aspect of human being is the outward, the worldly, the mulki. Mulk is the lowest level of existence, which is this world, physical world. So one aspect of human being is this outward, worldly, mulki realm, which is our body. Our body belongs to dunya, to alam mulk. And there is an inner, batine, ghaibiyye, hidden, and malakuti aspect for human being. Malakut is the world higher than mulk. Mulk is also called nasut. So, human soul, which essentially is from alam ghaib and malakut, has to deal with both realms. So there are things that connect us and relate us to dunya and mulk, and there are things that connect us to malakut. And he says that the soul can have different conditions, and there can be divine or satanic junud, soldiers. Some call our nafs to move more towards the higher realm of malakut. Some bring or call our nafs lower to the lower realm of malakut and nearer to the alam mulk. So although human soul by essence remains in the other realm, but it comes very, very close to the level of dunya. Body is in dunya, soul is in malakut, but higher level of malakut or lower level of malakut. If you come to the lower level of malakut, like a human soul which is vicious, which is selfish, which is full of problems, still it is not worldly, it still is not a wood or stone, but it is from the lowest realm of the world of spirits or the world of malakut, and when it comes to value, it can be worse than animals when it comes to value. So there is a battle between godly or divine junud army and shaitani or satanic army. If divine army in our soul becomes victorious, we become happy, and we would be like closest people to the angels. We would be close to the prophets and messengers and saints. But if satanic army and the army of jahl, ignorance, become victorious, then we would suffer in dunya and in akhirah, and we would be close to Satan's and to the people who have rejected the truth. So human soul has not a fixed position. It very much depends on how we treat it. And this is the whole issue of akhlaq and spirituality. So you have something like human soul, which has lots of potentials for good or bad, and you have to train it and discipline it. So first we discuss the condition of the soul in its lowest level, and that is when it deals with this world. And here the late Imam Khomeini says that our nafs here is in lots of interconnections with our body. We have our ear, our eye, our tongue, our hand, our leg, our stomach. All these are things that connect us to the realm of mulk, or to the worldly or material realm. And here we have to be careful. If we are driven by intellect and by religion, if our nafs, which tries to control us, is listening to aql and shara, we will be all right. But if instead of listening to aql and shara, we follow our illusionary, our ignorant ideas, and follow shaitan and temptations coming from shaitan, then we would move towards miserable life. So jihad and nafs, which Imam Khomeini says is even higher than becoming a martyr, is to make sure that we overcome our bodily desires and power and keep them under our control. If my eye, my ear, my tongue, everything is under my control, and I only utilize them in the way that is pleasing to Allah, then this is a real, greater, major jihad. And the person who is in this condition can be higher than a martyr who has not reached the same level of self-control. Then the late Imam Khomeini mentions few important tools or few important practices that we should have. One is Tafakkur Contemplation. And he says this is the first condition for fighting one's own self and moving towards the truth. Tafakkur or contemplation means that every day, in every 24 hours, at least we would have some time to think carefully why God has created us and brought us to this world and has given us lots of things, what he wanted us to achieve, what we are already achieving. Is there any match or not? Why we are not like animals? Why there are something special in us? And what these mean? Can we have these extra special things and still act and behave like animals? Or for example, when prophets and messengers and saints and great philosophers and scholars have asked us to follow aql and shara, intellect and religion, and not to follow our animal desires, why they did this? We should think about it. Did they wanted us to suffer? Did they have any enmity, these prophets and saints and scholars? Or they really wanted our success and progress? So when someone who is wise and knowledgeable, out of great concern for you, gives you advice, what should you do? Think about it. If we think about the whole story of creation and our position, we would realize that this life is given to us not as the last thing, not as the only available thing. It's given to us as an opportunity, as a means to move towards higher levels of life. And a kind of rational human being should always think about these issues. Imam Khomeini says even we should talk to ourselves and say to our own nafs that you have wasted my life or your life, because you are talking to your own nafs, for many years or decades by not listening to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, by not being pious. What have you achieved? If in your life there were days or more when you were forgetful of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when you just try to please yourself, to enjoy yourself, okay, what have you achieved from them? What have you become? So we have to preach to our own nafs in a kind of contemplative manner. The next thing, which is the last thing for us today, is about azm, about determination. After contemplation, we reach the station of azm or determination. Imam Khomeini quotes from one of his teachers who was alive at that time. Maybe he refers to Ayatollah Shah Abadi. That he used to say, and I say exactly his words, azm جوهره انسانیت و میزان امتیاز انسان است. This is very, very powerful statement. Very powerful, very profound. The substance, the core of humanity is determination. And this is what makes a human being better than another. تفاوت درجات انسان به تفاوت درجات عزم اوست. The difference in levels and ranks for human beings is all decided by the level of determination. If you remember in Aqaid, when we talked about Ulul Azm, the prophets of great determination, we said that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala out of humanity has chosen 124,000 prophets, Nabi. Out of 124,000 prophets has chosen 313 as Rasul, messengers. Among 313, there are 5 who are the most outstanding. They are called Ulul Azm min al-Rusul, the messengers of determination. And when it comes to Adam alayhi salam, Allah says, Lam najid lahu azma. We didn't find in him determination. So, it shows that what makes 5 people the most outstanding people, this is because of azm. So the problem of Adam was in azm, lacking determination, of course, because of not having that much experience. And the achievement of these five is determination. So whether you lack or have and possess determination defines where you are, defines also your ranks. So if I am not able to make a decision and stand by my decision firmly, I lack part of my humanity. I have suffered in my humanity. Then Imam Khomeini in the next page also makes a very important statement, and he says, استاد معظم ما دام ظله میفرمودند. Look at the way he respects his teacher. He says, our honored, our great teacher, may Allah prolong his shadow, means give him long life, used to say, بیشتر از هرچه گوش کردن به تغنیات سلب اراده و عزم از انسان میکنه. His teacher, which I think he refers to Ayatollah Shahbadi, because when he was writing this book, Ayatollah Shahbadi was still alive. He says, my teacher used to say, more than anything else, what destroys your ability to be determined is listening to music or bad music and singing. Taghanni, something which is ghina, so like haram music and singing. It's very destructive because it makes you very much emotional and very much passive, and it would be not easy for you then to be strong and firm and determined. If you remember in some of the lectures before, I mentioned this from Imam Zainul Abidin alayhi salam, that he says to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that I came to know علمت أن أفضل ذاد الراحل إليك عزم إرادة يختارك بها. I have come to this understanding that the greatest provision of a wayfarer towards you is azmu iradatan, is a determination in choosing you over other things. So azm is very important. Persistence, istiqamah, and determination, azm, these are very, very fundamental things. And we have to try hard to strengthen our determination. One very important mechanism for strengthening our determination is through the practice of musharata, muraqabah, and muhasabah. Musharata, to fix conditions for yourself, muraqabah, to monitor yourself, and muhasabah, to evaluate yourself. Inshallah, we will talk about it in the next session. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help us against our own nafsa ammare. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala awaken us so that we can see what problems we have and what solutions we have. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us a strong determination and ability to be contemplative, inshallah. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen.
اللهم صل